All right. So thank you again, Jesse, for being a part of this Wellness Moonshot interview series. This year, as you know, we are interviewing different well-being leaders on topics. This one today, I want to talk to you about technology because I know you're super steeped in that world. But just as a reminder for everyone who's listening to this, the Wellness Moonshot is about creating a world free of preventable disease. That is an enormous, like audacious aim. And it's only going to come about through efforts of a lot of people, a lot of us. So I'm just appreciative of your part in this and in that conversation. So I've been hearing wonderful things about you, so I'm excited about this interview. So the
I'm
first
excited as
question
well.
I
Thank you.
Thank you. First question I have for you is how is tech transforming how we think about wellness and well-being? Because technology is so much a part of our lives now. There's not literally one moment that we're away from it, and unless we go off somewhere. But even when you go off somewhere on a vacation, normally people have their phones or they're connected somehow or their Fitbit or their, device. So how is tech transforming how we think about wellness and well-being?
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind is just the unprecedented access to technology that exists today that didn't exist 20, 30 years ago. The smartphone is just proliferating all around the world, as you may know, and it really represents an entirely different situation than what we had even just with the desktop computer. So now we have these devices, as you said, a Fitbit is just one of them, but there are many others, and our phones can be included in this that can track all sorts of things that we didn't have access to, even if we were extremely vigilant about tracking our own health. And now this information is just present and very obvious to you, even if you're not seeking it out. So anything from the steps that you take to your heart rate to your sleeping patterns to new forms of information like your glucose levels. There's an emergence of continuous glucose monitoring that didn't exist even 5-10 years ago at a mass consumer level. So with the proliferation of these devices, we're now able to be aware of all aspects of our physical and mental health. And with that awareness, I feel like we can bring about a lot of positive change. Um, so there are also downsides to technology as well. I think it creates a lot of problems that we need to solve through great software. There's unfortunately a very strong link between the rise of social media and increased rates of depression, anxiety, and poor sleep. And so tech is this double-edged sword where it's both creating problems and also creating solutions for those problems. But my perspective is that there's no getting in the way of technology. This is something that we've seen throughout history. You can't slow it down. So the where the focus should be is on the solutions. How can we create tools to improve people's physical and mental well-being through technology, rather than trying to get in the way of progress?
Yeah. I actually want to talk to you a little bit more about what solutions you see are possible. Maybe even some solutions now, but what you see is kind of coming down the pike and what's possible. But before that, do you see technology at all shifting how we even think about wellness and well-being? Because I am even wondering to the extent to which people are now thinking more holistically, for example, about their wellness and about their well-being as a whole person in a way that maybe they weren't before. But I don't know, and I'm wondering from a tech perspective, are you seeing that?
I think so, because I think the first step to even considering your well-being is awareness of information. And I just think back to 20, 25, 30 years ago. uh you, the average person would just have a hard time becoming aware of, well, this is how much I'm walking each day and this is how it's been changing over time. or new types of information like what comes from your Fitbit or your Whoop band, where it's telling you your sleeping patterns. And I think before, maybe you felt like you got a poor night's sleep, but you weren't thinking about it more broadly, and how these data points are changing over time. So my feeling is that awareness is creating much more of an appetite for taking control of your well-being in a variety of ways. And we're at the first step right now, which is awareness. And I think over time, what you'll see is people adopting more tools to improve their wellness in a variety of ways.
Awesome, awesome. So, in what ways are you seeing, and you've already mentioned a couple, but I'd love to go deeper on it. In which ways are you seeing tech really advance wellness? And then, also the other side of that, as you mentioned, there's always two sides of a coin. In what
Yeah.
ways are you seeing tech erode wellness?
Well, I'll start with the second part of the question, because then I can talk about some solutions. There's no question that exposure to social media is very harmful for particularly younger folks, and it is bringing up all sorts of issues around self-esteem, because your people who view social media are mostly seeing the best parts of other people's lives, and what that does to a developing mind is, we're still coming to grips with it. So there's a whole host of issues: self-esteem, stress, anxiety, unfortunately, deeper issues like actual depression, um, that I think social media brings about. And it's not only related to the seeing the best of everyone's lives, but you also see immense amounts of conflict. Bullying takes on a completely different feel when it takes place in front of the entire world to see, rather than in a particular classroom. So a lot of these issues have, I think they've been around for years, but unfortunately, the internet and social media, they magnify these issues quite a bit. There's no doubt that we have a lot of wellness issues to contend with due to tech. But as I said before, it's going to be very difficult to get in the way of the progress of tech. People, tend to adopt these tools whether you put restrictions on them or not. And so what I'd like to focus on is, okay, well, what are we bringing to the table that's positive, that helps counteract some of the issues that I just mentioned? And I think apps are frankly magical. I mean, I run a company that builds apps, but I still think when you step back and you think about the power of an app, it's pretty impressive. So go back 20, 30 years ago to the days of CD-ROMs with shrink wrap software. To create that software is much, much more difficult. And then to distribute that software around the world was incredibly difficult. You actually had to ship, a physical box with a physical CD. And today, if you wanted to ship an app, with a moderate amount of skill, you can do that, and then you can press a button, and you can distribute something to all billions of people around the world who carry devices on them 24/7 that can use that software. So that proliferation of software is just magical to me. And so when there are developers out there that focus on mental well-being apps, so whether it's meditation or therapy or something else, they're giving billions of people access at a much lower price to tools that are really important.
Mm.
And that's very encouraging to me, because I often think of the alternative in a non-software environment. Well, that might mean seeking out a private meditation coach or a meditation retreat, and we should just realize that that's actually very inaccessible for the vast majority of people, and it's not a good on ramp to in this case, a meditation practice, because so many people around, the vast majority of people, will be too intimidated to pursue something like that. Maybe it's too costly, maybe it just feels inconvenient. So the idea of creating software that feels like a much better on ramp to these practices that are proven to really help people in monumental ways, it's powerful. And I think that's one of the things that I'm most excited about, is just being able to reach people that were unreachable in the past.
Hmm. I actually love what you're saying. The word that keeps coming to my mind is democratizing wellness.
Absolutely, yeah,
Because I think, I've been in the industry for a very, very, very long time now, and sometimes wellness and well-being experiences can be thought of as something only for an elite group of people. It
yeah,
becomes a very in-group, out-group type of industry, and yet at the core of it, I actually believe that everyone has the innate capacity to thrive.
right.
Everyone. And so it's how can we use technology to help people tap into that biological hardwired capacity to thrive, and that's what you're talking
Yeah,
about. Like the I hadn't thought about how remarkable apps were in that context to be able to really amplify these opportunities
yeah.
for so many people. Yeah. So what else more would you want to say about that? Because my next question for you is how can tech make wellness more accessible, particularly to groups that are often marginalized when it comes to, I'm thinking of, most of my work is in the corporate world. So, diversity, inclusion,
Yeah.
equity, that whole thought is all around how do we support um, wellness and well-being for everyone, not just a few. And I'm wondering how you see tech being a bridge or really an amplification of that.
Yeah, I don't want to repeat myself, but I think this is really the main point of what I truly believe. It's the access to tools at a lower cost, which tech provides,
Hmm.
is the key gateway to accessing communities that typically would not ignore or just be unable to afford these different types of wellness practices. So uh, yeah, I mean, I just think we're in a much different place than we were 10, 20 years ago, and a much better place. Again, just to use meditation as an example, there are so many free products, both through apps or through YouTube, uh, that have exposed meditation and mindfulness to just a much larger community than would have been possible in the past. And I think it's important to not be too uh, obsessed with the perfect meditation practice, and it's good for somebody to start slow and start with something simple, because that again can be this on ramp to a deeper practice over time, which we know is more beneficial in somebody's life. But I think so many people, because of the inaccessibility of traditional tools, were just being turned off entirely from this world that is very important for people to embrace.
Yeah, so there's three things that I feel like I'm hearing you say, and one is affordability, one is
Yeah,
accessibility, and then the third is this on-ramp to potentially either a deeper practice or a deeper understanding of oneself, or I could see an on-ramp to even other aspects, other dimensions of their well-being than if meditation is the start, often
right.
that's a gateway to
Absolutely.
kind of other. Are there any other avenues? So you've spoken about meditation a couple of times, and I know when I've done a little research about you, you've got some specific apps on cognitive performance, brain
Yeah.
health, balancing. So how are you seeing those in that light? Do you see like, for instance, the brain training and brain
Yeah.
health? Do you see that same dynamic there as
It, it,
well?
it is the same dynamic. And for us, we have an app called Elevate that helps improve reading, writing, math and speaking skills. And that app has given access to training that would be previously fairly expensive. And, our subscription price is extremely low. And so again, it's this on ramp to learning, to taking this growth mindset. And so we find that a lot of our customers, they start with Elevate and they expand into all sorts of different areas of brain health. And we're really proud of that. So yeah, the cost is a major factor for people. And especially in the self-improvement space where it's so easy to just pass up the opportunity to invest in yourself. And so people oftentimes to get started with a habit, you need to remove those barriers. And we really like to do that with both of our products. In fact, Balance, which is our meditation sleep app, is free for an entire year. And yeah, we did this because we thought that it was the right thing to do in with the emergence of the pandemic, and there was an unprecedented amount of stress in people's lives. And what we found is that we exposed meditation and sleep practices to so many more people because of that offer. And then as a business, we are a business, of course, we simply rely on some percentage of those people staying with us after a year, and in which they'll hopefully become paying members. And we, we feel great about that. If we're able to expose a lot of people, and if they feel that there's value, then they can pay eventually for a really affordable price.
Well, what I also like about that business model, and I know this is not a conversation about business, but,
Yes.
but what I like about that business model too is the people who do stay are doing it out of choice. They're
Yeah,
doing it because
exactly.
they really want to be there and they feel some real connection and value out of what they're gaining.
Absolutely.
They feel another level of wellness in
Yeah.
their lives. So, last question for you. When you think about the Wellness Moonshot, the kind of the audacious goal of the Wellness Moonshot to create a world free of preventable disease, which may or may not happen in my lifetime, by the way, but it's such a worthy aim. I mean, it's so
Absolutely.
worthy to do all around the world. What most excites you when it comes to technology towards that aim?
Yeah, I'm personally very excited about the degree to which an average person can know about themselves
Mhm.
from technology. So when you look at where we started with, um, let's say, the smartphone, uh, and where we are today with all sorts of smart devices, smartwatches, et cetera, uh, there's been a steady advancement of sensors, frankly, that can track your physical well-being and now your mental well-being as well. That I'm really excited to see where that goes, because if we're going from being able to simply measure steps to now being able to measure heart rate, to measure glucose, to
Mhm.
measure sleep levels, and there are actually new devices today that can actually detect the tone of your voice and can figure out what your stress levels are over time. And so you can just see where this is going, where these devices that you have on you all the time can be like a personal doctor who is
Mhm.
walking next to you with, and you're strapped up with all sorts of different sensors that you would have in a real lab setting. That's where we're going, where every person can have access to that data. And to me, when you're talking about creating a world free of preventable disease, the early detection of all sorts of issues is a very, very important part of that. And we are moving there. We're not anywhere close to where we need to be, but you can see where things are going. And I know that it feels like today that a smartwatch is a very expensive and elite device, but we know how this story goes. Over time, those prices come down, and over time, having some sort of monitor on you is extremely affordable, and something that the majority of people can um, can have in their lives. So that trend line is what I'm extremely excited by, because I think it's going to create a situation where we can get ahead of a lot of issues, both mental and physical. And that just wasn't possible before, because people would need to actually go into a doctor's office, and that only happens, once a month, once every 2 months, once every 3 months if we're lucky. And so now we have something that can continuously monitor you, and hopefully we can create some great tools to take advantage of that data.
I think that's awesome, that early detection.
Yeah,
And thinking about the early detection and the power of it at scale, the power of doing that at scale. And also, I kind of would add to that, one thing that excites me is supporting people in sustaining behavior change.
absolutely.
The
Yes. Yeah.
ability to really, that technology can support us in doing that, because just like you said, in the past, it would be you need to go into your doctor, or you need to go to your coach, or you need to go to your fitness trainer, or you need to go to your spiritual teacher, or whoever it is. And those are all, great avenues as well. Still, they will continue to be
Yeah.
terrific
Yeah.
avenues, but technology just adds this level of empowerment, personal control and personal empowerment, which I think is pretty awesome. Anything else that you would want to, as this conversation has sparked you, or anything else that you would want the listener? Remember, this is a community of people that are absolutely passionate
Yeah.
about advancing wellness. So that's who you're speaking to when you're talking to people who are listening to this conversation.
Well, I'll just reiterate, my belief that technology can be more of a positive contributor than a negative one. And sometimes that is tough to remember, because we tend to focus on the problems more than the solutions. And so as long as we have people in the world that are really dedicated to the positive solutions, we're going to be in a great spot, despite I think some of the short-term, very acute challenges that we see.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's my closing statement. I think it's a belief that I hold very strongly.
That's great, and it's always good to end on a positive note, an
Yeah.
inspirational note. I really appreciate your time, and thank you
Well,
for
thanks, Renee.
taking it for all of us.
Yeah, this was great. I really appreciate it. And yeah, thanks again for the opportunity.